And we're live. It's weird. It says we've already
Hello.
been live for 5 minutes, but I'm not sure we have been live for 5 minutes
Whoa.
because I didn't go live for 5 minutes until now. Hello,
Well, that's
everyone,
secret
and
stuff we
welcome to
discussed.
the. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when you can't trust technology until you can trust technology, I guess.
No, you can't really.
So,
You
hello,
can't.
everybody, and welcome to the narrative. Here I'm with Michael Mead, who's recently joined Plunge, or is looking at joining Plunge, and is already working and doing the writing comic scripts for Plunge, Chibi and PJ at the moment.
That's it.
Also, we want to talk about the header of the title of this video, which is the mystique of Batman. And I was saying earlier to Michael that I've only recently, by recently I mean like about 20 years, that I've been into Batman. Whereas before that I was into 2000 AD. I still am. Just finished reading a 2000 AD comic,
Yeah.
and while I was waiting for this, and also that I've been into, and after that, at about 97, 98, no, 87, 80, 89, somewhere along that, when I moved to Auckland, I got into X-Men. But Batman isn't in my top three. It wavers sometime due to what's being put
Right.
out, but I can
Mm.
always go back and say, this is what got me into Batman. And it was the whole earthquake of Gotham City.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I can't remember the book. I've actually posted about the link the other day about the book that got me into it. It was by Greg Rucka, big thick hardcover book. And because
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been
Yeah.
visiting libraries and
Yeah. Yeah.
reading library books and hadn't been reading comics for 5 years. So before
Right.
we go any further, Michael, introduce yourself to people who may not know you, who you are, and
Yeah,
so
sure.
on.
Okay. So my name's Michael Mead. I'm living in Wellington, New Zealand. And I've been collecting comics for since I was 5 years old. So that's like 50 years ago, which is, quite distant. Um, and I've been reading them, and then also off and on, I've been writing about comic books. So back in 1990 in New Zealand, we had New Zealand's first comic book convention run by Craig Mabon and Dave Tallick. And I started writing about comics then. But like all these things, a lot of things in life happens. You meet people, you have a partner, you have a child, you have a mortgage, and some of those things have to go by the wayside. But then a few years ago, I wrote a piece for Diversions of the Groovy Kind, which is a Facebook page. And I started looking at the life and times of comic books, not just what's happening in the superficial action and what's happening in the fantasy world of the issue, but who wrote it, how were they affected, what was going on in their life, what was going on in the world around them, and how did that influence what they wrote. And so I came to a point where I thought, I think Jack Kirby is a person who's really, he's the godfather of comics, and his life's work is such that it rewards that kind of inquiry because it's a very deep, multi-layered life and comics work, particularly in the fourth world comics. So I started doing these 50th anniversary blogs on my occasional murmurings blog spot. Looking at the life and times, doing contextual reviews of things. And a lot of fans on various Jack Kirby websites responded to that because people don't write like that. They simply detail the literal what happened in the issue, who did what, which is necessary, and I quite like reading those. But I'm interested in what is the meaning of the comic book? What is the meaning of the work from the time it was made, and what can it say to the culture now? And those fourth world comic books where Jack Kirby was completely free to do whatever he wanted, interference or not much, without having to prop up a lesser talented Stan Lee. He really speaks to the world and shows his vision of the world. And it is multifaceted. And every time I open one, I've got one due for Tuesday, I see new things that I wouldn't have seen when I was a child, when I was 5 years old, and I was just scared of his artwork. I was just like, I couldn't understand what the hell he was going on about. And I found his artwork difficult to get into. It kind of repelled me. But now, as a 55-year-old man, reading comics that he wrote at the same age,
Mm.
I can see all the stuff that he's bringing in there. And a lot of that stuff goes right over the head of a lot of comics readers because they're just looking at the superficial story, particularly sort of dyed-in-the-wool Marvel Comics fans who have a prejudice against DC stuff because they think it's for kids or they think it's juvenile or whatever. They don't spend enough time with it, and they don't read it as adults to see the meaning that is there. And so I'm trying to bring that stuff out. And I don't have to try very hard because Kirby speaks to you off the page. It's not me with an axe to grind or trying to talk up myself. I'm just trying to communicate what Kirby was doing, and it's incredibly rewarding. I'm talking to my guy who publishes me in the States, some of my articles, and we might do a book of it because I think it'd be worthwhile. Even if only 5 people buy it, you, me, Aru, our friends, our parents, I think it's worthwhile because people have told me, and I think there's some truth in it, that the writing that I'm doing is way different to what a lot of other people do. So that's a good sign to keep writing, And of course, thanks to Aru, I'm going to actually be writing comics, or I am writing comics with PJ and Shibi, and helping Aru edit some of his work, which is really exciting to me.
That's one of the things, like, talking about PJ and Shibi, right? This is something that goes into like 96 when I worked on this little teddy bear, but basically for a little image, a stencil that I could paint on a t-shirt. That was my little thing, and people liked around it. I lost the t-shirt, got thrown out somewhere, and then later on I did Shibi for my little sister. I mean, she's 10 years younger than me, for her band, an orange teddy bear. And then 2019, I was like, I'd love to do something funny or something a bit more homely, a bit more relaxed, but without the superpowers, and conversation pieces and things that were a bit more thought-provoking, but without any sort of, punching down or anything like that silly stuff. So I mean, I got lost. I did 17 stories, scripts, and then I was like, I don't have anything else in me right now at this point to write, and so I need to find someone. And then I saw your work, and I was like, I have someone here who writes and is committed to writing, isn't just looking at just one and done kind of thing, or one every few months, like my videos, but someone who's actually committed to the process. And and that's the thing. I was like, okay, so what if I reach out? Maybe he'll say no. It will be one, and I can just go, okay, cool, all good, let's go, carry on with everything. But then you did say, yeah, okay, and I thought, all right, so let's go. And the other thing is now, like, I mean, people are probably thinking, okay, what is what we're doing about? And this is what we're doing. This is what it's about. It's like offering avenues for people to be creative in what they love. If you're a comic book writer, or if you're a writer looking to write comic books, or if you have a love for comics, that's all it comes down to. If you have a passion for comics or manga or anime or animation, but pop culture, if you love this sort of thing, if you have a passion for it, we offer opportunities. Now, we don't offer money. No. Yeah, we don't offer money because we just started out. We're not DC with a billion, multi-billion-dollar corporation. Not worried about if my book fails, I'm still going to get paid if I'm with DC. But if I'm on my own, my book fails, that's it. So I think the idea is that, if you approach anything like as an independent with like, please give me money first and I'll do work. It's like, that's not how you get into this unless you're working for DC and Marvel, and you don't get there until you're working for 10, 20 years. But when you come in with us, it's like, okay, can you do some colors? Can you do some pinups? Can you do this? And it becomes part of something. And now you're going to be taking, and now you get to take over PJ and Shibi and write. Of course, I'm going to be editing it, because the thing about being an editor, and the same way will be you when you're editing my work,
of course,
is you'll be looking at it going, how do I make it better? Or should I step back and go along with that idea because I think that's a better idea? And I have the same thing. People will come to me and do the same thing with me. Like I've had to put aside 4 of my scripts this past month for one issue that I'd redone and redone. It's like,
Yeah.
There's 4 issues of Red Dot that I've completed.
Yeah.
That isn't doing what it should be doing as a first issue. So I understand when I go to edit other people's stuff, they'll have the same opinion about my work, but not. And so my thing is, you know what? I'll just wait. I'll just leave it. I have a very hard story as part of the script as a first issue, and I can't write it if my mind's everywhere. Because if you're approaching something that's
focus,
really
right?
tough, this is a really tough story.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about opportunity, like, with the sort of publishing is a lot easier now. In the 60s, in the 70s, when I was growing up, 80s, 90s, or whatever, publishers were gatekeepers. So there's 3 places to get your work published. There's so much competition. You're going to fail more than you're going to succeed. Now, someone like you can set something up and get people's work published. Now, how many people read it or whatever, that's a case of marketing, because if you've got content, like Jack Kirby, like Jack Kirby was a major creative, right? He wrote most of the stories, he illustrated most of the stories, but his work would never have got the notoriety unless he had met someone like Stan Lee who could market it, who could create a demand for it, because that's what marketing's creating.
Stan Lee was an amazing marketer.
Oh, he was amazing. I don't think he had next to nothing to do with the stories, right? I think the artists, not only do they draw the stories, but they visually wrote them, and they also, and there's documentary evidence of this. So they, hold on, let's promo someone's book here. A guy I met on the internet, Michael Hill, according to Jack Kirby. If you want to read a book, a forensic analysis of who did what, and evidence for the thesis that Stanley probably wrote about 10% of those issues and Jack Kirby wrote 90% of it, read that book. But that's not to diss Stan Lee, although he should have given lots of major credit to Steve Ditko and Don Heck and Jack Kirby while he was alive. But all those stories that those artists wrote would never have reached an audience unless someone like Stan Lee had got involved. He's like a master huckster. He's like, he could sell ice cream to Eskimos, right? So like the combination of that is necessary. Art needs commerce, right? You can't exist one without the other. Or you artists, you could write stuff, you can write stuff yourself. But if you want the world to see it, then you need someone like Stan Lee. So like, I think it's just placing people in the right context. A lot of Marvel fans are probably going to hate on me because they're going, oh no, Stan Lee wrote all that stuff and bullpen bulletins and all that stuff. But that's a mirage. That's a mirage. That's something we bought as kids because we wanted to believe it, like Santa Claus. But the reality is much, much different. But again, I'm also praising Stan Lee because he brought those stories to the world. He enabled people to see them. What I say about this in my various columns is that there'd be no stories without Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, but there'd be no Marvel without Stan Lee. That's how I say it.
That's it.
Michael might be a bit different.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
but you know,
we can look at, you
it's
can,
the opportunity that you're giving me. That's so good. And I think, like you're saying, it's when I do my columns on occasional murmuring about Jack Kirby, or when you do your comics, and I'm doing comics for you, just the value of doing them, just doing them, is exciting enough. You know, if we got paid millions of dollars or some Netflix came calling, whatever, great. But like, to tell the story that's on your mind and heart, that is what is the most important thing for a creative person. And to get some communication and understanding from someone who reads it. Doesn't matter what the meaning of it is. If you get that, then you're sold. You keep doing it. The energy keeps going, doesn't it? That's what it's about. You know, whether you're doing Batman or Ara and Chibi or whatever, PJ and Chibi or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, our technology now is like offering so much opportunities and easy pathways to being self-published. I mean,
that's it.
The latest thing is the guy who finished off Wheel of Time, right, for Robert Jordan. And I used to read Rob. The only way I knew Robert Jordan was through him writing Conan books. me as a teenager knew who Robert Jordan was, but I've never
Right.
read a complete Wheel of Time book or any of his other fiction books, fantasy books. And so the guy, I can't remember his last name, but Brandon, sold $24 million worth of his books on Kickstarter for
Wow.
4 sci-fi books. I mean, fantasy books, I think it was. And he's the biggest seller. And he didn't even go through the publishing route with getting printed and all that. It's just, he did it himself, didn't go to the publisher. And this is the great thing about technology. Last year I did a tech week talk with Olivia Garalja I think it's on the Comic Trade page, and it was specifically about how easy it is now to be creative and make something of, because of technology, make something of an income off it. But the other thing is, I've got my 17 3-panel comics finished. Now you're going to come in with your part, and we're going to put them together, and we're going to print that as a comic book, right?
Yeah.
And now we have a cartoon book, comic strip. That's that's kind of like my version of Garfield. I Hate Monday kind of thing, or even our own Footlock Frets. It allows us to do something. Like the whole thing about Plunge Studios and for Plunge Enterprise itself is our stories our way. There is no other reason for this to focus when we come to creating comics. It's just to tell our stories our way. Not having somebody from America saying, or from England or whatever saying, that's not that's what that won't sell. If you should do this, if that will sell. If you do this, I go, no. This is based on people I know, or there is ideas here from conversations I've had with people. And I think that's a great thing about what we're able to do with technology. And and also yourself, right? You're writing for this guy in America, and he's looking at putting a book together in America. Have you ever had him say, "Well, you can't do that. You can't do that"?
UK, yeah.
Oh, UK. Yeah. So there's people, and this is about a guy, an American guy, and you got a UK dude and a Kiwi writing about an American and his comic book style, creativity. And it's just that's the other thing about being an outsider to the whole comic industry, is that you can see it without the blinkers. You don't have like any sort of like what do they call it, like the blinders on, and you have to see it this way or no other way. But we can create whatever we want and put it up on a website, and then make if it gets popular, we go and print it, or we take it over to Indiegogo, which is where we're going to go with all our stuff, to go to Indiegogo and get other people from around the world, hopefully support it, and then we send it out to people all over the world. No HarperCollins, no Penguin, none of those, no Scholastics, none of that. It's just us doing it.